I used to think that spending less meant missing out on things until I realized that I was only using money that my budget actually fixed. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you ways on how spending less made my life easier and more clear than it has ever been. And I came to realize that spending less is actually living more. And you're going to find out why I'm saying this. What does living more means to you? As to me, it's actually more freedom, more time. Everything is clear when you're working on your budget, and just being the thought of being liberated. That's what living more means to me. So when you spend less money, you actually have more time to work on your goals. You have more time to focus your energy on something else, rather than decluttering your house, rather than trying to cut down some expenses that you really don't need. The whole idea of spending less is that you cut down your budget, and it's not actually restrictive but liberating. For instance, when you purchase fewer things, this means you won't have to deal with the decluttering issue. You'll have more time, more space to think and breathe, especially when you are in a cycle that always pushes you to work on other things here and there. Something else that I realized over the years is that spending actually reflects on your priorities as an individual. Are you spending money, or are you building a lifestyle? This is something you have to sit down and ask yourself before you spend money on things that actually don't make you happy. So cut down unnecessary expenses that you know are not going to benefit you in any way, that you know that they only bring more stress other than relieve you from it. What you spend your money on actually reflects on your priority. So if you're someone who is working to build a lifestyle that is going to be somewhat amazing than the lifestyle you are leading right now, you have to really set priorities on how you spend your money. And this is something that I realized after a really few years of tweaking my budgets here and there. Don't spend money on something simply because you think it's a good way to spend money, or simply because you're trying to please someone else. This is the life you're trying to build, and it's for you, it's not for someone else. So the more things you buy out there just to get validation from someone else, it's actually going to cost you your budget, and you're going to be broke because of the lifestyle inflation. You're trying to keep up with people who are actually on another level than you are. So this is a really unhealthy habit, so you have to avoid this. I always say in this YouTube channel that you should always be intentional. Don't follow your impulses, especially the first time your money hits your bank account. Don't rush to make purchases. And it's always a really good idea to sleep on big purchases, especially minimum 24 hours, because it's going to give you time to evaluate everything you need. The moment you have your money inside your bank account, there's that feeling, there's that impulse that usually pushes you to purchase things. And if you want to stop this impulse, don't just make a decision right away to purchase anything that you think about. Just sit down, be intentional about how you spend your money, and this is where your budget that you created earlier comes in handy. So don't follow your impulses. Always be intentional about how you spend your money. Think of what you really need other than want, and always think of spending less rather than spending more. And this is going to help you simplify everything in your life, just simple as that. One thing I realized with impulse spending is that you might spend a few dollars to buy something that you really wanted. In the beginning of the month, you thought it's really a good idea for me to purchase, let me say, a flask that I really wanted. Maybe that Sanrio bag you saw somewhere and you wanted to buy. And you have been holding on that feeling. And the moment when your money comes in, the first thing, because it's an impulse, something that has been there, it just drives you to go and purchase that. And after a few days, you're going to realize then, why did I buy this bag? Why did I spend money on this thing? Why did I spend money on that thing? Because right now I don't feel that it has made any difference in my life. I don't feel like You know, I feel just drained. I feel like there's more stuff to deal with. I feel that I'm more stressed because the money that I spent on that backpack, I should have bought something else that would have lasted a month, you know. So there's this stress that will always come after you make the impulse, you know, irrational decision of purchasing something without being intentional about it. This is just going to affect you, and it's going to stress you. It's going to drive you down. It's going to squeeze you, and you'll find that you're emotionally drained, and you won't have the energy to keep on working harder on the things that you're really working towards to achieve, you know, when it comes to your financial freedom. The part of spending less doesn't mean that you should live your life just like a poor man, or maybe live your life in a really restrictive mode, because that's not going to make you happy. We work so hard so that the money we have actually can make us happy, you know, can make us into the individuals we want to be. You know, we all have dreams, we all have goals. So when you are creating a budget and you have the idea in mind of spending less, always set aside a stash of cash that you're going to use for your fun, you know, like traveling somewhere, maybe like buying a gift for someone, going on that amazing experience you wanted to go somewhere with your family, something like that. Always allocate money for fun, you know, so that it doesn't feel like you're punishing yourself by spending less. And that's why I really emphasize on this rule of 50, 30 and 20% rule of ensuring that you have 30%, or if it's less, maybe let's say 20% of your income goes to the fund that you're going to allocate for yourself. Spending less doesn't mean that you should deprive yourself of the amazing things that you want to do for you to have fun, enjoy yourself, you know. Because I always say that experiences in life are always greater. The angle of spending less usually means simplicity. When you spend less, you actually embrace simplicity. When you are simple, this means you'll have fewer stuff, you'll purchase fewer things, which means you won't have to use so much energy when it comes to arranging your room, when it comes to maintaining these things, and this will give you joy. Because when you have more things, you have more expenses to deal with, you have lots of things to classify when it comes to your budgeting. This will result to you being depressed, stressed, and you'll be overwhelmed, and you feel like you have no space to breathe, and this is going to affect you. It's going to affect you in so many ways. So this is something that you should always think about. Think of the simplicity that spending less brings you, and you're going to realize that it's actually a pretty good idea for you to spend less, you know, because when you spend less, you buy less. This means you have to take care of few things, and it's literally really breathtaking, and it gives you the energy to work and focus on other things other than maintaining, you know, taking care of the things, because at the end you realize that the things you bought, they're so much for you maybe, and you can't handle them, and eventually you'll find yourself maybe giving them out, and that's a really poor financial decision. If especially you're someone who is chasing to attain a financial freedom, someone who is aiming to become the financial beast you want to be in a few years from now. In my case, if maybe I want to move from Mombasa to Eldoret, I usually find it really easier, because I have less things with me, because I made the switch of spending less, and realized that spending less actually means living more for me, because it's just easy. It's like let me say, for instance, it's like a switch for me. I can just move from one place to another just easily, because I have fewer things with me. I'm a guy who always spend less and always prefer simple things. It doesn't mean that you should be a minimalist for you to think of this angle. You can just imply it in your life, especially if you find yourself on the consumer angle. You're always purchasing things, you're always on the run, maybe looking for another fancy bag to buy, another fancy shoes to purchase. Pause a little bit and think of what really matters to you. Your real budget actually cuts a lot on your time and energy. Just think of it this way. For example, let me say you have a budget. It's not a really big one. I mean, you don't have to take hours to work on it, to think of the things you need to think of the purchases you need to make. This actually will give you more time to focus on your relationships, making more money, work on yourself, and yeah, that's all it's all about. So spending less means you have more time to focus on other things, so which is a really good thing, especially if you're someone who also is trying to improve on his or herself. So one thing I realized is that actually spending less gives you more time, gives you more energy, because you're not going to be so stressed up about the purchases you're about to make. And we all say that time is money. Time is money. So don't spend your time on something that doesn't add anything other than draining you. So if something is draining you so bad and it's taking so much of your time, especially on the part of budgeting, man, just cut it out and make sure your budget is always concise, to the point, because the time you spend thinking of the things you should classify, thinking of the things you should put in your budget, that time should go into something productive, something that is going to build you as an individual. Something that I've been ignoring for so long, and it's really helped me in so many ways, is the part of tracking and reflecting on how your budget has been going, especially after the end of the month. You have done all the purchases, you have taken care of every expense that you can think of. This is the time for you to sit down and ask yourself, how much money did I spend on this and that? How much money did I spend on my irregular purchases? How much money did I spend on the utilities? How much money did I spend on groceries? This is something that is going to help you a big time, especially if you're trying to hit your goal of financial freedom. So tracking, it really helps, and because for you to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from, you know. So knowing how much you spend in a month is going to help you make clear goals when making another budget for the other month. So it's really makes things easier, and you'll find yourself spending less, because there's usually a tricky part that gets lots of us. That always comes to spending more money after the income increases. You know, you find yourself spending more and more, especially after the income increases. This is what we call lifestyle inflation, and don't let it catch you up, because this is going to ruin everything that you're working on, especially if you have big goals, you have big saving goals, you want to buy something, you want to invest in something, you want to start a business somewhere. So you have to avoid this, and that's why the part of spending less, which is always equal to living more for me. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you're new, like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one, when we are talking more about personal finance and how you can become the financial beast you always want to be. So see you guys in the next one. Peace.